Problems, problems, problems. As if my customers, bless them, weren't enough. I've got a real one on my hands. Bill, that's my son. He's still fresh out of pharmacy school. Oh, good grades and all that. But if he's going to survive in this business, he's got to learn the selling game, and fast. So, here's what I'm going to do. Instead of making him just an assistant tablet dispenser, I'm going to spot him behind the camera counter. And here's the why and how of it. This new book, Drugstore Operating Costs and Profits, leads me to believe that's where he'll learn selling quickest, because photo supplies are my most important sundry line. Says so, right here.
Do you have the camera that was on the Kodak TV show the other night? You know, the Brownie Hawkeye.
Oh, the Hawkeye, yeah, we've got it. The Brownie Hawkeye. You can take real good pictures with this. All you have to do is look into the glass finder and then push the button over on this side. I guess that's for something else. There it is. You push the button like this.
Mister, you don't know much about cameras, do ya?
I'll be with you in a minute.
Everyone seems to be busy at the moment. Perhaps you can tell me. Can I take colored pictures with this camera?
Madam, your camera has a twin-element lens, and lenses of this particular formula can give critical definition.
Mr. Jackson, thank you for taking over. But you experts have your own language. Don't you think a simple explanation would be better for average snap shooters like Mrs. Roberts and me? Of course the lens in this camera will take good color pictures. Most all of them do. Just try a roll of Kodacolor and you'll be convinced.
I guess I really goofed today.
Why don't you take a look at that Kodak literature kit back there on the shelf? Has a lot of good dope in it.
Well, this is all very good, but the one thing that really bothers me is I guess I just don't know how pictures get made.
Well, the best way to understand is to learn a little about cameras. Look, it's after quitting time. But let me show you why and how a camera works.
Be right with you.
There's really nothing to it. All cameras are basically the same. Let me show you what I mean. However, I'll need a few special props. Aha! Here we are. Let's start with the heart of any camera, the lens. This catches the light and focuses the picture. Then, to control the amount of light, there's an adjustable opening. Next, there's a shutter to act as a kind of blackout curtain. This controls the length of time light from the subject coming into the camera can fall on the film. Let's tack some labels on so we remember the names. All these features of a camera are enclosed in a light, tight body. Then, add an aiming device called a viewfinder and a shutter release. And that's it. The basic parts of any camera, regardless of price, they're all essentially the same. Suppose we have a little guy appear in front of the lens, like this. He's our subject. We'd like to take his picture. You know that he reflects light. Everything does. The lens collects the light and focuses the image. When we want to put him on the film, we simply open the shutter. About that adjustable opening that controls the amount of light passing through the lens, engineers call it an iris diaphragm. And it's similar to the iris of the eye. Let's see what happens. When the sun is bright, the iris opening of your eye is automatically smaller. But when the sun hides behind a cloud, the iris lets in more light, so you can see normally. The iris diaphragm is set by hand. Engineers have their own language, and the way they describe diaphragm settings is no exception. F numbers, they call them. Oh, I guess it's like the prescription symbol. Nobody really knows the actual meaning. When the sun is bright, the opening is normally small, like F16. Or if it's a dull day, the opening must be larger, in this case F8. So far, we've been talking about outdoor pictures. The story's the same when you're taking pictures indoors, because flash lamps are nothing more than bottled sunshine. Now about this business of exposure. While the amount of light entering a camera is determined by the lens opening, how long the light acts on the sensitive film is controlled by the shutter. Suppose we want to picture our little guy in the middle of a jump. And suppose we are using a relatively slow shutter speed, like 1/25th of a second. But what happened here? A fuzzy feature. Let's see why. In slow motion, we can see that when he was in the air, our shutter moved so slowly that too much of his action got through, and his picture blurred on the film. Let's wind him up and try a faster shutter speed, say 1/50th. This time, the faster shutter speed catches him in the act. The result is a sharp picture. Let's try it again in slow motion. On the more versatile and more costly cameras, lens openings and shutter speeds can be changed to suit different conditions. When we vary shutter speed, we must make a compensating change in the lens opening to make sure the amount of light reaching the film is enough. Here, we want to make an album shot of our little guy. He won't move. So there's no need for fast shutter speed. With a slow shutter, he can have a smaller lens opening, and this combination lets in the right amount of light. But when there is action we want to stop, a fast shutter speed is needed. And with it, a large lens opening lets in enough light. There, that stopped him. It was really too fast to see. So, let's look at it in slow motion. In either case, the posed shot or the jumping picture, the amount of light that reached the film was the same. Now about focus. With box cameras, focus is fixed at the factory. And just about every picture you want to make will be clear and sharp. But there's one thing you can't do. You can't take pictures nearer than 5 feet without a close-up attachment. If you do, they'll be out. With focusing cameras, good pictures can be taken at arm's length, without attachments. But when the subject is at a more normal distance, a funny thing happens. The sharp focus zone is not so critical. It becomes greater and greater, until just about everything will be in good, sharp focus. That's one of the best features of a 35mm miniature camera. And here's a good deal. For average picture taking, the settings for focus and shutter and lens opening are marked in red. By following the red dots, your camera operates just as simply as a box brownie. So that's just about everything you'll need to know about photography. That's how you sell cameras. By knowing that the same elements are found in any camera, still or movie. Here they are in the famous Brownie box camera, the fastest mover at the photo counter. The same basic innards are in the 35mm miniature camera. Movie cameras are basic name too, because a movie is a series of still pictures in rapid motion. That's the story, Bill. When you use this information in your selling, we'll get that added profit they say comes out of a photo department.
They?
Yes, the research people. In this book on drugstore operating costs and profits, they state that there's 5.5% more net profit in photo supplies than in any other sundry line.
Not the way I've been going.
That'll change. Look, Bill, the average photo department sale is 60 cents, compared to 38 cents for other sundries. And your turnover is 3.5 times greater.
They say that?
The book proves it.
Oh, hello. Sorry, I didn't know I had a customer.
That's all right. I'm looking for a camera. Well, something not too expensive.
Well, what sort of pictures do you want to take?
Oh, I don't know. Friends mainly. And in color, I guess, if a color camera isn't too high priced.
Well, how about the Kodak Duoflex? The main feature of this camera is the oversized viewfinder. It shows the picture just as it will appear in the finished print.
Oh?
Ever have trouble with double exposure?
Oh, yes.
Well, another good feature of this camera is you just can't make a second exposure without winding to the next picture. The shutter release is actually locked.
How much is this camera?
Runs around $16 and worth every penny with those features.
That is a nice camera, but, well, it's quite a lot more than I want to spend.
Well, then I think the Brownie Hawkeye is the camera for you. Sells for around $7.
Is it good for color?
It sure is. And another good feature, there's nothing to adjust. Focus is fixed right at the factory. It's simple to load. Here, you asked about color pictures. Well, this is the film to use. Kodak Color. And look, here are the loading instructions right in the camera. And here's another real help, too. You can tell what kind of film's in the camera just by looking in the red window. If you put your camera away for a while and you can't remember whether you were loaded with Verichrome or Kodak Color, well, this will tell you.
Well, what about flash? Is it any trouble?
Just watch. I'll have this camera ready in no time.
Is it any different making indoor pictures?
Not with this camera. Your instructions for flash shots are right here in front of your nose. Try it.
I saw a
reasonably priced 35mm miniature in life. I think it was the Pony 135. Could you show me one?
Yes, we do quite well with these Pony cameras. They're a good value and not high priced. Now take the lens, for example. That's a fast f3.5. Incidentally, fast means simply that a lens lets in more light. Makes the camera more versatile. More valuable when poor light conditions would mean you couldn't get the picture. Look at the shutter. Speeds up to 1/300th for stopping action. Another good reason why Ponies are worth more. But here's the best gimmick of all, the exposure selector. By using this guide and the simple red settings, you can use the Pony just like you would use a simple box camera. And here's something unique, the easy load feature. Let me show you.
It looks good to me.
And now, sir, I'd suggest a carrying case to protect it.
Okay, you've convinced me. What will it all amount to?
Of course, with longer shots, all the lights should be on.
Let's see now. You say this camera costs very little more than a good electric shaver? And that color shots are about 10 cents a scene?
Not too different from what you've been paying for your black and white album prints.
Is the camera really easy to operate?
Well, let's run through it again. It's easy to load. Focusing is fixed. Your pictures will be sharp at any distance beyond 3 feet. You make just one adjustment for light, and that's done by checking the sky guide. Well, that's the whole story. It's as simple to use as a Brownie box camera.
Looks good to me. What do you think, dear?
Well, I don't know. Maybe we should think it over.
Here, sir, just put this camera up to your eye and press the lever as though you were shooting your lovely daughter in full color. You know, she'll be grown up before you know it.
Where do I push the button?
Right here.
What are you doing? Daydreaming?
No, dear. I just made up my mind to buy it.
Well, there's why I put Bill behind the photo counter. And you can see for yourself how our sales are going.